It's here. We are redefining what it means to sit at the girls' table.
If you've been following me for a while now, I just want to start off by saying thank you. I feel like a lot of times right now, we're all supposed to have to figure it out. We're all supposed to know our dream job, where we want to go, what we want to do. And the truth is, none of us know. Like even people in their 40s and their 50s, they're still like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And I've had such a career change over the past few years that I thought it's really important because so many people ask me a lot of questions. And so basically out of college, I started in consulting. I started doing strategy consulting at KPMG, basically implementing different cloud computing software. So I implemented Oracle Cloud. I worked on the financial strategy and helped with their processes moving forward. After KPMG, a year into the job, I decided I wanted to move to Australia. Everybody was like, why Australia? I'm like, it's my dream. I want to work internationally. I want to get that abroad experience. So I'm picking up my stuff. I'm going to Australia. Legitimately, that's what I did. I told my job, I'm leaving. I'm moving to Australia. Now, there's something to note here because in between all this and having my dream, I started telling people about it. So I talked to my manager. I talked to the director at KPMG. I was like, listen, I really want to go to Australia. Is there any way you guys could send me? Because maybe they could help. And basically, on the project that was on, the next place that we were helping it actually implement their processes was Australia. And so what happened was I asked them and basically made a 26 per page proposal deck for why they should send an associate 1 year into the job to Australia. Okay, guys, I know what you're probably thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, nobody's going to say yes to that. Well, I sat down 5 of the directors on this project. I made a laminated proposal deck, walked them through it, and it was accepted. My dream to go to Australia was happening 1 year into KPMG. And then as we continued on with the process, throughout the internal KPMG processes, they actually said, hey, because of tax implications, we can't send you. Maybe we could figure this out in a couple weeks, or we could figure it out in a few months. So just wait around. Most people would be like, okay, that's awesome. Maybe I'll wait. But honestly, it wasn't going to happen. And I kind of knew that deep down. And I feel like so many people put their dreams on the back burner, just waiting and hoping for the best. And that just wasn't me. And I wasn't going to too. So I quit my job. I said I will give myself 4 months to find a job out there. And in the meantime, I was already applying to different jobs on LinkedIn. I was doing outreach. I was having calls with basically anybody who would respond to me just to try to understand what their job was, if they would refer me to a job. I wanted to do anything. I was applying to the craziest jobs. I didn't want to be a waiter, waitress. I wanted to still work in finance, but people need to actually support you and sponsor you, which costs over $10,000 there. And so everybody was pretty against it. So I moved there. And probably every day on LinkedIn and on different job boards, I was applying to different jobs. I was like, okay, I got this. Like, I'm just going to keep applying to different jobs. I'm going to see what happens. And basically, one of the last people, when I was like really starting to get down, and I reached out to the CFO of Deloitte Australia. I'm like, listen, I just moved here. I worked at KPMG, your competitor. I actually did an internship at Deloitte. Like, what would it take for you to hire me? At least hop on a call with me. Like, I'm pretty much desperate. I was one of the top performers at KPMG. And so he was like, hey, I'm forwarding it to the partner at Deloitte Australia. The partner had me in for an interview. And after a 30-minute interview, he said yes. So my dream came true. I officially had a job at Deloitte Australia. A couple months in, COVID hit. They still offered to sponsor my visa. I was there for a year. And then I decided, okay, I hadn't seen family in over a year. It was an absolutely amazing experience to work abroad, but it was my time to go home. And so after Deloitte Australia, I found a job at a startup. I did a career change, so my first official career change, and I started doing tech sales. And I'd wake up at 6 a.m., start cold calling people on the East Coast, I'm based in the West, and sell this financial automation system. And I knew this wasn't my forever job. I wasn't going to do tech sales, wake up at 6 a.m., selling a software of somebody else's dream. I always had an investor's mindset and an entrepreneurial spirit. And so basically, on the side, I started following different syndicates on AngelList. And you have to be an accredited investor in order to actually invest in different syndicates. So for that, you have to either have one of your series, so your series 7 or 66, I'm pretty sure, or you have to have net income of $250K in the last 2 years, or you have to have net assets of over $1 million. And so I went on AngelList, I checkmarked the box, and I started following different syndicates, and I started investing. So I invested in SpaceX during a different earlier round, not at their current $137 billion valuation. I invested in Carta. I invested in Alt, Atoms, and a few more. And at the same time, I started seeing NFTs pop up. So this is back in 2021, or late 2020, early 2021. And I was like, you know what? I find this so interesting, but the best way I learned is by doing. So nights and weekends in my tech sales job, I was buying different NFTs. I was on Twitter. I was telling people about why I'm interested in this, why more women need to come into this space. And I started becoming an advocate for women. So on the side of my full-time job, I'm investing in different startups, reading white papers, investing in NFTs, investing in crypto. And eventually I met Drew Austin, who's the founding partner of Redbeard Ventures. And I met him at one of the first NFT New York cities. And he's like, okay, Elana, like if you start sourcing deals, I'll give you carry. So what that means is basically I go to different startups I find exciting, either that are currently raising a round of funding or that just raised a round of funding. So I'm starting to actually network with them. And I'm like, hey, if you're interested, we have a syndicate and we'd love to invest in you guys. And I'd love to hear more about what you're building, and here's what we're doing. And so right when Drew gave me that opportunity, something clicked. And like most venture funds do have scouting programs, and that's what this was. But I didn't known about it before. And I was already talking to founders. I was already so intertwined with the Web3 crypto space. I was like, this is my dream. So legitimately, as I was getting a following on Twitter, I was reaching out to any founder that I found really interesting. And I was like, if you're raising a round of funding, I'd love to talk. Or if you're not raising a round of funding, let's still talk to build that relationship. And so I ended up sourcing some of the top deals fairly quickly. And so after a few months of sourcing some of the top deals and getting that allocation for Redbeard, Drew brought me on full time to help run the fund and the syndicate. So a lot of people since then have asked me, all right, Elana, you went from consulting, where I had my CPA as well, so people consider me an accountant, but I'm not. I know nothing about taxes or audit. Then you went to a startup out in LA doing tech sales for a year. And then after that, you completely made a 360 and went to venture capital. And so the first things first is there are these scouting programs. So I would reach out to some venture funds that align with your thesis and what you're excited about. And I'd talk to them and I'd be like, hey, if you're looking at getting allocation in companies, here's a few companies I'm excited about. Here are companies that I have allocation in. Would you give me carry? And I'll introduce you to the founders. So that's one way to do it. I've seen a lot of people do it. And that's honestly what worked for me because I already had all these startups that I was really excited about. My Twitter following gave me this extra step where people would actually respond to me and answer me. And then if they weren't raising funding, I was just really good at networking and building relationships. So that's the first way to do it. Now, let's just say if you're like, all right, that's cool, but no venture funds will answer me and that's not what I want to do. Another way, honestly, just write about what you're excited about. Start a newsletter and talk about companies that are exciting to you in this space. Just start a blog, even though that's, I feel like, so old school. Whatever the case is, just put it out into the world because eventually somebody might see it. And so I think a lot of times people wait too long or need external recognition to be like, okay, that's really cool. I will only put things out in the world if I have followers or if I have likes, but you won't get there if you don't start. And so my biggest step is if you're excited about a space or you're excited about different companies and different startups, just start putting your work out there. Because then also you could go to different venture funds and be like, hey guys, not sure if you're hiring, but here is what I'm excited about and here's what I'm doing. And so it just builds that actual background and what you're doing and what you're building and what you're excited about. So those are two ways that I would do it and I think was really helpful for me. Now, let's just say you got your step in the door, you're working at a venture capital firm, or you're interested in venture capital and you don't even know what it is, let me talk to you a little bit about it. So first, there's a syndicate and a fund a lot of times. So a syndicate, also known as an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, basically pools money together from high net worth individuals or LPs. So we're the fund, or we're the syndicate, the SPV. We go to our network of individuals and we're like, hey guys, here's a deal we're really excited about. Do you want to invest in this specific deal? And so they're like, yeah, this sounds awesome. The minimum to invest through an SPV is usually 1K. So then they'll actually invest 1K. They could do 100K, but usually we see right around, let's just say between 5 to 20K per LP. But obviously so many people are also interested in just having a little bit of allocation, doing 1K. We then pool that money together and we invest through one check into that company. So we got the allocation, we send it out to our LPs, write the deal memos, and then we invest as one check into the company. Now, let's just say that company 10X's, we take carry on that, just the profit though. So if we invest 100K and then it turns to $1 million, we have $900,000 in profit. We take 20% for finding the deal and doing all of the work involved with LPs and giving them this allocation. So we'll take 180K, and then the rest of the money, the 720K, will go back to the investors. So another way, if you're interested in getting involved in venture, start investing in syndicates. Start building your portfolio of startups so that when you are looking at going into venture capital, you're like, actually, I've already been angel investing for a few years. Here are deals that I've actually invested in, and I find them really exciting. Maybe if you had exits or liquidation events, and this is why you should hire me. So that's another way too. So that's an SPV. We pool money together for that specific deal. And then the other turn is a fund. So we have Redbeard Ventures Fund 1. And basically we go to LPs, we're like, we don't know what deals yet we're investing in, but we're raising a fund. So give us your capital as opposed to investing in a specific deal, and we'll invest that capital in deals. So the difference is you have no idea what deals we're going to invest. Usually we have a thesis. So us specifically, we're Web3, crypto. We specifically invest in play-to-earn gaming, DAO infrastructure. We invest in DeFi, companies with equity and tokens. So that's a couple of things that we're excited about. But people believe in us. And so once people give us their money, which we have a $25 million fund, we then allocate that money to different companies. And then hopefully a few of them will have liquidation events and we'll be able to return the fund along with a multiple of 5, 10x. I think the average per fund is 3.5x. So that's a little bit of the difference. Also, usually the amount that you have to invest in a fund, the minimum is usually right around 100K. Sometimes ours, we started at 250K. As a minimum because our fund is a little bit bigger. Sometimes there's smaller funds or 5, 10 mil. Sometimes funds are 300 mil. Honestly, just depends. So we're more of a smaller fund as opposed to some of the ones out there. Now, another difference between a fund and a syndicate is a fund, along with the carry that I mentioned a syndicate takes, where if it's profitable, it takes 20%. It also takes management fees. So it takes usually the average is like 2% over 10 years. So that's just for managing your capital. So apart from the profit that they also take money to pay their salaries, legal, any other fees that they have to travel around to different conferences, to source deals, to do their accounting. So whatever they have, that's also why they charge that additional fee on top of it. So that's a little bit about a fund versus a syndicate. Now, the best piece of advice that I have is honestly just go out there and try. If you're interested in venture capital, meet as many people as you can. There's so many events out there. There's so many different things that you could do. And I feel like so many of us are too comfortable. We're too comfortable at home or in our job. I mean, salary, I feel like, is the most addictive thing because you just know you're like, okay, I get it every 2 weeks. I could pay my bills. But honestly, if you love something and you want it bad enough, like take the chance, take the opportunity. Or if you do love that salary and you can't take the chance, then do it on your free time. Do it on the weekends. Go start writing deal memos. Go start writing about companies that you're excited with. And as I mentioned, you don't need to invest in them. You just need to start. And so now I want to get into a little bit about my day-to-day. So I spend so many hours in Zoom. And it's exciting and it's fun, but guys, it is exhausting. I mean, Zoom fatigue is real. I am probably in sometimes between 4 to 8 hours of meetings. And so the couple of meetings that we have is first we'll meet with portfolio companies. So we now have a list of 150 different companies that we're investors in. And so we'll go and we'll have meetings with them. We'll talk about how they're doing. Are they profitable? Maybe what partnerships they have. How's their revenue? If they're going out and raising, what companies they're talking to, their monthly burn rate. And then a lot of times we'll help them actually with their raise, make any introductions that they might have, because sooner as opposed to later, companies have to go out and raise again if they're a startup and they're not yet profitable. So that's some of my meetings. We're also finishing up our fundraise for Redbeard Ventures. So I'm talking to high net worth individuals. I'm talking to fund of funds. I'm talking to family offices to see if they want to invest in our fund, talk about our thesis, what we're investing in, our current investments to date, and anything else we're really excited about. And then I also have usually first or second meetings or due diligence calls. So we have an analyst right now who takes a lot of our first meetings. And then usually I'm on the second meetings. And then I'm also on a lot of the diligence calls if we're talking to customers, if we're having even a third, a fourth call. A lot of times we'll talk to other investors that are investing in their round of funding. So that's most of our calls. And honestly, that takes up most of my day. And then there's just a lot of networking with other VC funds, talking to them about what deals they're seeing and what deals they're excited about. I mean, it's been a crazy market within this past year. And I think we're all just talking about different deal flow. Too, as I mentioned, like a lot of our portfolio companies, we're helping them raise as well. So talking about that deal flow to some of our network as well. And guys, if I had to say like why I love it, it is so exciting to go out and to invest in founders that you truly believe in. And once you have that feeling where you hear a product and you're like, this is life-changing, or this is just going to be the next big thing, being able to write a check and know that you're helping them continue on their mission and their goal is one of my favorite things. So that's why I love it. And then we're a startup in ourselves. You know, we're fun. We're starting off. We're doing a podcast. I do my own podcast. We're working on an incubator right now to actually incubate different companies and get in at the earliest stage, at the earliest valuations. And so it's just a really exciting field to be in. And then the last thing I have to say, that if you are thinking about being a deal scout of different funds, there's a couple ways you could go about actually finding companies to invest in, but also actually doing the outreach, which is probably the most important part. And a lot of times when people are investing in us, they ask us how we get our allocation. And so when I first started out and I didn't have the Redbeard name to me, I used probably Twitter the most to read about different deals. Sometimes I'd even tweet out or ask people really deep in my network, like, what companies are you seeing? What are you excited about? Here's my thesis. Here are a couple of sectors within Web3 crypto that's really exciting to me. Do you know any companies that might be raising or that are doing some really interesting things? So continue to grow your network of people that you trust. And then once you find a company that you're excited about, there's a few things I do. First, I go to LinkedIn. I find the founders' names. Once I find their founders' names, I'll go to their LinkedIn. Sometimes I will little tap on LinkedIn. I have LinkedIn Sales Snap. I pay about, sadly, $100 a month for it, but it allows me to do outreach to anybody, and they receive an email that I sent them a message. And I'm like, hey, like Redbeard Ventures, let's chat. And I just write to them and make sure to make it personal. This is not a message. I just do a broad message to anybody and everybody that will listen. And I'm like, hey guys, I work at Redbeard Ventures. I see your ticketing protocol, and I've seen your current traction that you're working with this, and this customer. Not sure if you're raising right now, but regardless, would love to chat, hear about what you're building, hear where you're at. We're one of the top Web3 fund and syndicates on AngelList. We've invested in this, and this. I feel like you'd be perfect for our fund or our syndicate. So would love to chat to hear more. Sometimes I'll also include a Calendly to make it easier. And then more times than not, founders will answer. Even if they're not raising, they want to start to build that relationship. So that's what I'll send on LinkedIn. And then I go to Twitter. I find the founders again. I follow them. Sometimes if it's a really hot deal and I'm like, oh my God, I need these founders to answer, I'll start liking some of their stuff. I'll start commenting on some of their posts. If they have their DMs off, I'll be like, tried to DM you, work at a Web3 fund, would love to chat. If they do have their DMs on, then I will ping them again, and I'm just like, hey, let's chat, and pretty much the same message I sent on LinkedIn. But I'd say don't be afraid. And if they don't respond and you don't receive an answer, ping them again. And this might be annoying, and sorry for any founders that are listening that they're really annoyed if they just close a round of funding and they're getting pinged by 200 funds. But I promise you, a majority of founders would much rather receive inbound from funds or deal scouts, whoever you are, than not receive it. So take the chance, reach out, and ping them again. So I have a funny story. I had just started working at Redbeard. I was still just deal sourcing. I didn't even get brought on full time. And I was seeing MoonPay, and they didn't yet announce their crazy round. Wasn't sure about their valuation, but I was just seeing them everywhere. And I was like, all right, I know their integrations. I've heard like the back talk about what they're doing. I really want to get in touch. The founder's name's Ivan. And so I reached out on Twitter. I reached out on LinkedIn. I was tapping him, following him, whatever it took. And then he actually responded to me on Instagram. He's like, hey, Elana, I'm down to meet up. I'm actually going to be in LA. Let's grab coffee and let's chat. I probably cried, guys. I wasn't yet working at Redbeard. I was trying to find just the best, hottest deals to do for them to be able to syndicate. And so I met up with him. He's like, all right, we're actually just announcing our round. It's completely closed. I might have 50K allocation. I'll let you know in 24 hours. So guys, in my head, I'm like, if I get this deal, Redbeard's hiring me. Like, I convinced myself that that's all I needed. This one deal from MoonPay, and that's it. Like, I met with him. It was a great conversation. Love Ivan. Nothing bad to say, but I was like, this is my deal. This is my shot at getting into venture. And so the next day passes, and I'm like on my toes up really early. I can't even tell you how many times I refreshed my email. I followed up with him that first day, just like, great chatting with you. Can't wait to invest in you guys. Nothing. Radio silence. Like, all right, he's busy. He told me he was traveling, whatever. He'll answer me. I think it was like a Tuesday that I met up with him. So that was Wednesday. Then Thursday comes, then Friday. And in your head, you're like, all right, it's been 3 days. It's probably like good. I could go ping him again and he'll respond. It's fine. So I ping him again. Radio silence. So just so you know, and as you guys probably remember, I had him on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Like, how many times can you ping a guy, you know? So I think I started where he first responded to me on Instagram. So I tried Instagram. He didn't answer. I tapped him again on Instagram. He didn't answer. I tried Twitter. And in my head, I'm like, that's it. I completely lost it. I thought this was a good deal. I think I even mentioned to Redbeard being like, I think I have this allocation. Would you guys want it? He's getting back to me. Long story short, I was ghosted. I have never been ghosted by a guy, but I was officially ghosted by Ivan from MoonPay. And it crushed me. But the reason why I'm telling you this story is not to shit on Ivan, because I honestly think he is a great guy. I've got to meet him since. And it's really just because don't let one person not answering you completely stop you. And also, if they don't answer the first time, try again. And then maybe try a third. And I'd say after 3, that's when I usually am like, okay, I'm either going to try a different method of getting in touch with them. Maybe I have their email, maybe I have their Twitter, their LinkedIn, or it's like, okay, it's on to the next one. And then follow up in a couple of months and don't just stop there. Like, I don't think Ivan even remembers getting all my messages. And so I would just say, keep trying, guys. Like, don't just give up. And so, hey, listen, I didn't get the allocation. It was a high valuation anyway, might I add. But I didn't get it, and that's okay, and I'm still in venture, and I'm still here, and I still reach out to people. And so just keep trying and try different methods of reaching out. There's also ways to grab people's emails called Zoom Info. You could go on LinkedIn, use an extension called Zoom Info, grab people's email, and send them an email. There's so many different ways. But honestly, just start, and you never know where you're going to be. So guys, that's a little bit about venture capital. That's my story about how I got into venture, how if I were you, just start sourcing deals, angel investing, or writing deal memos and just putting it out there. And it's an exciting space to be. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have in the comments. I'm always happy to make another video with follow-up questions. I appreciate you guys listening today, and let's chat soon. Welcome to the Girls Table, guys.